and things like that. Technically, they have overrun the time period as to when they were to start here, but because it's the Senate Majority Leader and out of deference to him, Mitch McConnell, they're going to give him more time. Now, again, just to reset what we're expecting here, once Mitch McConnell concludes his remarks, is we expect to have a procedural vote, probably, we don't know that 100%, but probably have a procedural vote, take attendance, a quorum call. This is where they actually make sure.
Anybody hear me? Sam? Chuck?
I got you.
Okay.
Anybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
I can hear you.
Don't know that my
Samantha?
my video's not on. Okay, hang on. How's that?
Oh, Daryl. Whoa, man. You're big, man. You're big on the screen.
I know. You want me to get bigger?
No, no way. Let's see where I am now. Okay. Okay, let's see.
Did we hear from anybody, Cameron, as far as not being able to make the meeting?
I have not heard from anyone.
Okay,
that
good.
couldn't make it.
What's that?
That could not make it, so we have not heard from anyone.
Good deal.
And I have not heard back from any citizens the potential of someone coming either that we had discussed about a world.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I told her, she's like, do you need anything else? I'm like, treats. So she,
I mean, I'll never turn down.
so she brought it in. So yeah, just right before the meeting start, just hit the record.
Okay.
Is it on?
Not yet, but I'll just turn it on.
Yeah, just go. You can go ahead and turn it on.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
As long as it's plugged in, because
Oh, just waiting.
This is really cutting into cocktail hour. I want everybody to know that.
Are we having them at your place?
Yeah. Well, virtually.
I'll be there. I'm on my way.
No, no.
Chuck? Chuck?
Yes, sir.
I'm still having trouble with my email. When I pulled it up, when I talked to you a while ago, when I pulled it up, it's on my screen, and then I went to it, and as soon as I click on it, it disappears, and I can't go back and retrieve it. Right now, I don't have the email to come to Zoom. I had these two last week, so I don't know whether it's my end I don't know.
You actually lose the email itself physically?
Yeah, I can't go back and find it in my emails.
Huh. Well, you got that now.
My grandson told me I needed a newer computer.
It's always wise to listen to the grandchildren. They know better.
Yeah, they know about that stuff.
Yes, they do.
Get a Mac.
A Mac.
Get a
I don't
Mac.
want any hack.
No. It's just the opposite. You don't get hacked if you got a Mac.
Never been on a Mac.
There's a bit of a learning curve, but I mean, I was the same way, but then I'll never go back. That was years ago, but I'm a Mac head for sure. And they're hard to, you don't have the virus problem that you do with IBM based computers. You could have a virus. You could be dirty in there,
What is it? Not as many people on it, or people just don't try to hack?
It's the operating system. It's just the way their operating system works. It's just harder to infect, with the
Gotcha.
viruses that are out there. I mean, you might have somebody come in or take it to somebody and let them look for if you're infected with all these things that are out there that can cause all kinds of problems, especially with email, because that's where they burrow in through the email
Right.
application.
I've always, if I get an email from someone or something that I don't recognize, I just delete it. But there's always
Right, but
that
you never,
possibility.
but you never know. There could be. I mean, you might have missed one, but yeah, it's your. I've just heard over the years that the IBM type computers, anything other than Mac, are just more vulnerable to virus and hacking. And so I have never had. I mean, I just don't have problems, and I've been a Mac guy for decades, and I just don't have the issues that other people do.
I agree. How old is your system, Daryl?
Do what?
How old is your system?
My computer is probably 10 years old, maybe. But
Time to hit the hip. Time to hit the wallet. Time to hit the wallet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I noticed my camera is not very good either. I'm kind of foggy up there.
Oh, you look okay.
At some point, they just stop playing well with other computers and other systems, and it just becomes so frustrating to deal with. Because I know that's what I was dealing with. Because I waited to the last minute too. Last year, I sold one, or I got rid of one that was about 10 years old, and I mean, it was the mice were tired, and
Right. Yeah, this was getting really, really slow.
Yeah.
I think there's a planned obsolescence with everything you buy electronically.
I think you're right.
There is.
Yeah, it used to be that way with cars back in the 60s and 70s, and they've gotten a lot better. But computers, they just keep upgrading, all the time.
Yeah. It used to be a car 600,000 miles is over with.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now 200,000 easy.
Yeah. So, you might think about getting a new machine. That might help. Yeah, your grandson is right. Probably.
And if he's not, then I can hold him responsible.
That's right.
Take it out of his retirement.
Yeah. There you go. I like that.
Testing, 1, 2.
Who's testing?
I was.
Oh, gotcha, Matt. You're on.
You all are so quiet.
I'm muted. Hi, Matt. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, John.
Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Yeah,
Jeff.
hi.
Yep.
I put mine on mute because I don't want you to hear weird noises.
We appreciate that.
Mute.
All right, I have 7 o'clock. I believe that's everyone. Right?
Yeah, we're only missing Pete. Let me see if he's in the waiting room. I don't see him. I can add him if he joins us, but I do not see Pete.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and get it started. Welcome, everyone, to tonight's planning and zoning meeting. I hope everyone's doing well and is staying safe and sound. Before we jump into the minutes, Cameron, would you like to introduce your new staff member to everyone?
Yes, I was trying to figure out when would be an appropriate time. Everyone, this is Megan Bischoff. She's our new city planner one at the City of Ozark. She'll be filling in for primarily what Christina was doing before Dolores retired, focusing mainly on the planning and zoning items, platting, ordinances, comprehensive plan type stuff, and then reviewing some site plan information. But Megan Bischoff is here to my left.
Great. Welcome, Megan, once again.
I'm Megan.
Okay, let's get started. First up on tonight's agenda is the approval of minutes for the August 13th, 2020 meeting. If everyone has had an opportunity to review those minutes, if there are any comments, questions, additions, or deletions, if there are none, I would entertain a motion. Yes, John.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor, just raise your hand. Okay, looks good. Next up is the approval of minutes for August 24th, 2020 planning and zoning. Same thing. Looking for a motion.
Motion to approve as written.
Got a motion by Jeff. Do I have a second? Don't be shy. Okay,
I'll
thank you, Daryl. We have a second by Daryl. All in favor, just raise your hand. All right, thank you. All right, no scheduled visitors or guests, no unfinished business. First up on new business agenda tonight is letter A, which is the final plat for Old World Estates Phase 2. The owner is the Kendrick Counts Development LLC, located at 3900 to 4400 block of North 22nd Street. Mr. Smith.
Yes, the applicant is Kendrick Counts Development LLC. This is phase 2 of the Old World subdivision estates. It was zoned PUD. The applicant has made application to final plat phase 2 of this development. Everything as far as staff comments, review of the plans has been satisfied. The construction improvements have been satisfied as well. Staff is recommending approval of the final plat. I do want to point out that the developer is working with the city on a developer's agreement regarding a couple items to be completed within a certain time frame, such as the pool and buffer yards. With that, be happy to answer any questions, and the developer, David Counts, is online with us.
All right, good deal. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Counts, is there anything you care to add to Mr. Smith? Comments? David? David Counts? Can you hear me, David?
He said he lost his audio.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
David, do you have anything to add, yes or no? Let me message him.
Okay. I'll wait. Okay, good deal. He does not have anything to add.
No,
I'll open this up. If there's anyone there from the public, Cameron, did anyone show up?
No, no one from the public has shown up.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and open and close it, and I'll turn it over to the commission for comments and questions. Anyone? Yes, John?
I just have one question. I know I drive by that occasionally, and I know that it's where the airport was and everything. And I'm just curious as to how many. I looked at the plat here this week. How many homes? What's the total number of homes? Does anybody know? Cameron, do you know?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. There's a little over 300 lots in that subdivision.
Okay.
I'll message David just to see if he can
I think
confirm the
he
number.
heard. I think he's messaging back now.
Okay. 308, including patio homes, which is part of phase 2.
Okay. Thanks. I was just curious. I know it's a big development, and I was happy to see that they dedicated a trail for the Chadwick Flyer. I thought that was pretty cool. So, it's asphalt, it's paved, so that's a pretty good thing. I appreciate that.
Okay, anything else? There's Pete. Anything else from any of the commissioners, comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we go ahead and accept the plat 2 as written.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the plat 2 as written by Jeff
second
Garrison. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Seconded by Jean Ann Hutchinson to approve the final plat for Old World Estates Phase 2. Owner is Kendrick Counts Development LLC located at 3900 to 4400 block of North 22nd Street. Roll call vote, please.
Carol McGuire,
Aye.
Jean Ann Hutchison,
Aye.
Jeff Garrison,
Aye.
John Dillon,
Aye.
Matt Bettinghouse,
Aye.
Pete Renfro,
Aye.
passed unanimously.
All right, good deal. Thank you. Thank you, David. Okay, nothing under discussion. Commission, any comments regarding P&Z issues that you care to bring up tonight?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you a question?
Who's asking? Oh, yes, Mr. Smith, go right ahead.
Just to confirm, our internet connection wasn't the best. Jean Ann, did you make a second on that motion?
You did.
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. It was cutting out. So, all right, that's it.
Mayor Gardner?
Yeah, I just have a question. When the plat needs to be signed, Cameron or Megan, is that like tomorrow if it's approved, or is that after the developer's agreement is signed? The reason I'm asking is that I'm going to be out of town, so I just need to know.
This one is scheduled. It's one of the old processes. It goes to Board of Alderman on November 2nd for
Okay,
approval. So we got a little bit of time there.
that sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, good deal. Any other comments from the commission with regard to P&Z issues? All right, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the planning and zoning portion of this meeting.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
A motion by Daryl to adjourn, a second by John, I'm assuming. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, there we go, approved. Now, let us jump over to our other hat, the Historical Preservation Commission agenda for the evening. First thing up is the approval of minutes for the July 27th. July 27th. Wow. Historic Preservation Commission meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review? If so, are there any comments, questions, additions, or deletions? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve minutes as written.
I have a motion to approve the minutes as written by Jeff Garrison. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Daryl, second. All in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. No scheduled visitors, no unfinished business. First thing under new business is letter A. It is the location 100 100 Elm Street. Applicant is Linda Myers, owner Christian County Museum and Finley River Art Gallery. Request for a COA for a monument sign. Mr. Smith.
Yes, the applicant is the museum, the site on the southeast corner of the square. They're requesting an approval for certificate of appropriateness of a new sign. The sign is being constructed out of wood, and in your packet, there's some kind of examples of what that imagery might be or will be on that sign. Staff has reviewed this and would recommend approval based on our sign ordinances and the OHPC ordinance.
Is there anyone here from the museum or the art gallery tonight?
Yep, I do not see her on the meeting, but she was forwarded the link for the meeting, the applicant representative.
Do we want to move forward or do we want to hold it over?
Staff has no issues moving forward based on our findings of the document or the application.
Okay, not a huge fan of moving it forward without the applicant showing up, but
Mr. Chairman.
yes.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question about it. I noticed that it said that the posts that will hold the sign up are treated. In the historic preservation guidelines, it says that wood should be painted. All wood use should be painted.
Okay,
On
Jeananne,
sign?
Jeananne, would you mind holding on for just 1 second? I want to make sure that I open this up for anybody in the public that might have come to see this.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, you're fine. I'm assuming Cameron, nobody's here.
No one's here from the public.
Then I'll open and close the public portion of it. Now, Jeananne, please go right ahead.
Okay, I just had a question. In the application, it says that the wood post holding the sign and the wood on the sign is treated. And I believe it says that on the sign materials that it should be painted wood, metal or an approved non-shiny, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not sure that the treated wood will be appropriate looking when it specifies that it's to be painted wood.
Mr. Smith? Cameron, are you looking it up?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Did you hear Jean Ann's question?
I caught most of it. It locked up again.
Basically, she's saying that the signs showing that it is supposed to be treated wood, and she's indicating the design guidelines require it to be painted or metal.
And yes, based on, and I'm not sure exactly what the wood would be if it's not treated, but that is the common construction practice today for wood and putting it in the ground as a treated post. I wouldn't be knowledgeable enough to know exactly what wood would be utilized if it wasn't treated wood in today's world of acquiring wood products.
Well, Gene, I think your question would be that they would be painting that treated wood. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yes. So we can just, whoever makes the motion, we can just make sure that's part of the motion if that's what you want to do.
that's what I'd like to do, yes.
If the design guidelines.
That's what I would recommend, is just noting that the wood post shall be painted. And to answer the question about the sign, I would clarify that the sign would be painted as well, just to make sure that's clear too in your
Okay,
motion.
all right. So whoever makes that motion, we'll just make sure that both of those are in there. Anyone else have any comments or questions regarding the sign? No? Okay, then I would entertain a motion to, for including Jean Ann's recommendations.
I would make a motion that we approve this application with the contingency that all wood on the sign and the post, all wood that's visible be painted.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second. I will second.
We have a second by John Dillon to approve the location of 100 Elm Street. Applicant Linda Myers, Christian County Museum, Finley River Art Gallery, COA for a sign with the contingency that both pieces of material, the sign and the posts, will be painted. Is that correct, Jean Ann?
That's correct.
Okay.
In an approved color.
In an approved color. Absolutely. We're going to get into that in just a minute. Roll call vote, please.
Daryl McGuire,
Aye.
Jean Ann Hutchison,
I,
Jeff Harrison,
Aye.
John Dillon. John Dillon,
Aye.
Matt
Did I
Benza,
answer for?
Aye.
and Pete Renfro.
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
All right, good deal. Thank you. Next up, discussion. As we all know, we've we've had some questions regarding this over the last couple of months, and staff and I have had an opportunity to sit down and have some meetings to at least begin the dialogue or the discussion of an approved paint palette for the historic district. So Cameron's done some research on that, and you see some of that in your packet tonight. And really what we're looking for, and I'm sure Cameron, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, is we're looking for a direction of a style or types of paints. Many of these paint companies have very specific paints for historic districts, and the samples that you have in your packet tonight are one of those. There's 2 or 3 different ones, and Cameron was going to try to track down a couple of more. Were you able to do that at all, Cameron?
Yes, we've still been researching that. In your packet is the Benjamin Moore brochure. It was an example that the chairman had brought forward to us from another municipality. And so we were able to acquire that from the Ace Hardware store here in Ozark. I did go to the Sherman-Williams store in Nixa, and they had a display of the historic colors, but they did not have any brochures. So we're still trying to get a brochure to provide to you guys, and so that staff can have one on in the office. Have not looked at other manufacturers yet, but I suspect there's some out there that would provide a color palette. So as we're doing our research, we'll provide that as we get it. What staff would like to do is get some feedback on the color palettes. It would be nice on the staff side if we had an approved color palette to hand applicants, just to give them some upfront information on acceptable colors, and whether that is noting that the Benjamin Moore palette is acceptable or a like alternative, or if we try to go ahead and identify the other manufacturers. My fear is if we try to be specific to just a handful, we might not catch them all. But if we were able to note the Benjamin Moore, but they're open to submit an acceptable alternative, that basically another manufacturer that provides the same color or equivalent color, that would be acceptable. So in your packet, you will see this brochure in the color palettes of that. I also have, you're welcome to come by the office. I also have the kind of the little other sample that kind of has them all in there of the historical color palettes from Benjamin Moore. With that, I'd like to have any discussions on the way to go. But like I said, it'd be nice if staff could have a commission approved color palette that we could hand off to applicants to give them some guidance as they proceed forward.
Jean Ann, if I may, have you, in your experience, been involved with the selection of a color palette in any of your previous walks of life? And if so, can you share the process of how it was decided, how it was selected, and how it went forward, please?
Sure. I worked in 2 different states with this, and in Georgia, an historic preservation commission is not allowed to determine color at all because it's considered a transient, temporary thing and not a permanent improvement to a building. So they have no say. It's outlawed in the whole state there. However, in Illinois, it is not. And some of the considerations, and I did want to discuss these. I'm glad you asked. It's never cut and dried and simple in historic districts. And because of several reasons. It'd be so easy if we could just pick out a chart and say, this is great. And perhaps we can custom craft one, but these charts are made not for particular regions, but they are nationwide. And so what is an historic color and used in a historically accurate way in the Northeast, in oceanside communities, or in other places as well. In Florida, what is an historic color there is not at all appropriate for the Midwest. And you can see my point there. And residential and commercial are two different animals as well. And so choosing something that's appropriate for our historic district will be different from just the charts that the companies come out with. Well, we can see most of the time buildings are built with materials that are easily obtained. Historic buildings are, because they didn't want to pay for a lot of shipping. And so in our area, it's mostly stone, wood. There's some metal, especially on commercial, not on residential. Almost all of the residential are wood, and there are some of their frame. There are some, a few brick houses as well, but most of them are. And so the colors would be totally different for frame houses than they would be for historic commercial buildings around our square and in the downtown area. The buildings there are mostly brick and stone, and there are a few that have metal fronts that were shipped in. But the colors of the brick and stone go all the way from a buff color, kind of a yellow tone, to red, to dark red, and some browns as well. And so those earthy, more earthy tones are what are appropriate for the commercial district. And they're usually the darker colors, but sometimes there's, the more yellow brick, that's a natural, and the trim then is often the cast stone masonry or metal trim or even wood trim. And the trims are usually done in a darker color. Right now, and it's really popular to have a modern farmhouse look. And that's how Wheezy's was painted, with the white siding and dark trim. And if you look at the modern farmhouse look, which is a residential look, it's not a commercial look. It doesn't blend in our downtown at all. It's not similar. I know that's a non-contributing building, but our standards do say that non-contributing should strive or remain to become compatible with the contributing buildings. So they should be close in color, the siding, to the brick and the stone and the painted metal of the commercial historic buildings, and trimmed in either a accented dark color or a lighter color, like the buildings like the courthouse and the church on the northeast corner of the square. That trim is the cast stone masonry, which is almost a white, an off-white color. So that's what is really appropriate to ours, but ours downtown is a Midwestern downtown. And so the colors from the paint charts, not all of them are appropriate, especially for the commercial district. More of the colors would be appropriate in the residential district, especially the lighter colors, but not in the commercial district. So those are just the guidelines, kind of the framework to make color choices with that I've seen used. And of course, Illinois is Midwestern town, Midwestern area too. And so the same thing that we use there would be appropriate here for the most part.
So how do we get from this to the selection of the colors that we would like to see, either for commercial or for residential? The problem that I've had since we started talking about this a year or so ago is I can't wrap my head around how we pick the colors. And most of my research that I've done basically said the same thing that you said, that it's subjective, it's difficult, that, they need to be earthy type tones. So do we want to have an actual palette that we give out? Do we want to have recommendations? I mean, what is your best recommendation of how we get to the end that we can give to the business owners, landowners, homeowners, and the residential homeowners?
I would first of all just define the residential separately from the commercial, because like my house would not have the same constraints as would the commercial buildings downtown. So that's an easy dividing line. And much more goes in residential than goes in commercial. The residential is fairly easy. Because you can do blues and grays, all the tones. But then you get in the residential area, and the natural materials that were used, most of them brick and stone, with the trims in wood, but most of the buildings are brick and stone. And those natural colors, because painted brick is really a no-no in historic buildings. It's damaging to those historic bricks. And so just looking at the natural tones of the buildings we have around our square would be a good basic building block to choose colors and different hues of those colors, do an inventory of the historic buildings, and then work off of that. And, there's different shades of those buildings, but working from that basis would be an authentic way to do it, a good way to do it, firm. And then the accent colors, can be a much wider variety. The accent colors, they want to trim it with much wider range in the historic charts that you could use for that. And for awnings, same thing. You have the same color choices with awnings that would need to be approved.
So do you think it would be beneficial for, say, you and I and whomever else would want to do it, would be to sit down and actually have a face-to-face conversation and say, okay, that in our commercial buildings and our downtown buildings, these are the hues that we want to go after, that we want to recommend. And when we talking about the residential, these are the hues that we want to recommend. I mean, do we want to go to that extent, or do we want to have just a broad statement to give to people? I mean, I'm willing to sit down and do whatever I have to do to work through this. I just don't have the expertise.
It would be great to have a group work together, look at what some other towns have been doing for a long time that have it in place, that it's working in the Midwest, and perhaps pull in an historic architect to just kind of put their stamp of approval on what we're thinking and they wouldn't even have to make a visit here. We could take pictures of the historic buildings and they could just look, and maybe that would give a really firm foundation. Having a general, I'm good with having just the general characterization of what we want to see, but that would make it really hard on staff to make any choices. Then you're making it difficult for them. And so maybe having a committee or a group that at least works together on it and brings a recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission, that might be a good way. Whatever you think is workable, but.
Okay, let's come back to that. Let me open it up to anyone else. Yes, John.
Well, everything Jean Ann said there is great. It's just great to have dialogue like this about this subject. Chuck, you might remember back in the beginning of Main Street, we had an historic architect come in and help us get started. And years ago, we had a palette that my partner, Catherine, was sort of running the show for all that. If you might remember, Chuck, you remember, maybe
Yes.
Daryl. And so I don't know where she got her palette, but it was, there are a lot of palettes out there, like Jean Ann said, and there is a differentiation between commercial and residential. That's important to remember. But it used to be that before anybody would paint their building or do anything to their building with regard to their storefront, and especially the trim, they would consult Kate. She would go over and take the palette. They would stand out in front of the building and decide which color was appropriate. And the last time that happened was when Wheezy's was painted the last time before this time. And there was this, and Josie, the owner of the business and the property, wanted to do it correctly and comply with the rules. And so it was appropriate. But it's been a long time since Kate's been approached by anybody asking about what color to paint anything. It's just done. They just do it. And so we're getting these weird hodgepodge colors that aren't really appropriate for the historic district. I mean, nobody's really complying with any set value that is part of what we are supposed to be doing with regard to this, the way we approach the historic district. And everything Jean Ann just said there is dead on. So having an historic architect come and give us some guidance, picking a palette for our place, our sense of place with regard to our historic district, and differentiating commercial from residential, and then having that for staff and making everybody comply with it will make everything more cohesive with regard to the way and it's all about a look and feel. I mean, that's how an historic district is only as good as the way it looks and feels. If it doesn't look and feel appropriate, then it's not, the values, you lose value. So obviously it's a concern that I've had for a long time, and it'd be great if we could get it back on track.
I appreciate that, John, and it's exactly why we're doing this. You know, we do want to stop this. You know, building owners painting it whenever they want, whatever color they want. So we're gonna really take this very seriously as we move forward. I know some of the buildings have already been done, and there's nothing we can do about that, but we can certainly take care of anything that's going to be coming to us in the future. Yes.
I know this may not be appropriate, but I want to say hats off to Jean Ann, because there was a building that came before us in a few meetings ago, where the color, I mean, the building is not a contributing building. So what they're doing to the building architecturally is going to make it actually a lot better. But the color they're choosing is not the right color, really, with regard to the way a historic district should be presenting itself. and Jean Ann was the only person on the board that voted against it. And but if I could go back in time, I would be right there with her. I just want to make that clear. Thanks.
Okay. Pete, you spent some time on OHPC. Do you have any insight that you'd care to share?
I agree with Jean Ann as well, that it's one of those things that's the preferences are pretty personal, and I don't really have any experience. We've not had that much that has actually come up for review when I was on board.
Okay, all right. Anyone else want to chime in on this? Anything at all? Any suggestions that someone might have, or a thought they might have, a work that they've done in the past that either did work or didn't work? Anyone at all? Okay, Jean Ann, I would like to meet. I would like to see if we cannot sit down and talk about this and get a professional to come in. I'm not quite sure how we move forward with that part of it, Cameron. But I think if we're going to do this, let's do it right. If we're gonna put our foot down and say these are the things that we want to do, then we have to do it right, and we have to make sure that it's right for everyone. The town, the city, the commission, the homeowners, the building owners, everybody. So if you're willing, I'm more than willing to sit down and talk about that. And if there's anyone else on this commission that would like to join us, it would be much appreciated. Give it some thought, and we'll put something together. Is that good with you, Jean Ann?
Good with me.
Okay. Cameron, you fine with that plan?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds appropriate. I just need to go back and do some research on my side, on the staff side, and see what the next step is for going about that process.
Okay. It'll also give us a chance to talk about some of the design guidelines that we want to look at as well as we're moving forward. Okay, great, terrific. Anybody else have anything to add with regard to paint? Mr. Mayor, Mr. Poston?
I have one question.
Yes, please.
So will there be enforcement after this happens if people just go ahead and paint?
That's a great question. Mr. Smith?
We have an enforcement process, so we will do our part to follow that process if we are directed to go down that route.
Okay.
So
It's a very difficult process.
So are you saying that it's complaint driven? Is that how?
It is complaint driven, but at the end of the day, making someone remove paint is a really difficult process.
Or paint over it.
Or paint over it.
Yes, John.
One good thing about paint in an historic district, it's just paint. So it's not forever. And so if people will just comply, and if they don't comply, then it's still just paint. So it can be, it can be removed, changed perhaps. Is that correct, Jean Ann?
Except for on brick.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, brick is definitely a no-no because it damages the historic fabric, as does Portland cement. There are all kinds of, so there's an education process that probably needs to be in place as well with regard to why it's important to follow these rules. And somehow over the last decade, we've sort of lost some of that. We started out with it and everybody was on board, but then there's always a few that just go, no one's going to tell me what to do. I don't have to, I want freedom to paint it purple or, pink. So, but it's an historic district and the value increases as more and more people follow the design guidelines. That's the thing to remember.
Well, John, I think you make a good point with the education aspect of it, and the marketing guy in me says we just need to let everyone know. Once we determine what these are, we just need to let everyone within the district know that these are the policies moving forward, and here's the consequences if you choose not to follow the steps of coming through the OHPC. And then it'll be up to staff to make sure that they do their part. But I think we need to let them know. Because people are going to sit in their homes. They're going to, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know anything about it. Nobody told me I couldn't paint it purple. But once we get this done, and we just draft a document that we send to every business owner and every building owner within the historic district, letting them know, here's the new steps and here's what's going to happen if you don't follow through. I think that will go a long way. Cameron, does that make sense?
That makes sense. And that's kind of the process we went through before with the revising and update to ordinances. We'd notify each property owner that there's an item on the agenda and then let them know that there is a new ordinance. And I don't recall if we actually included a full copy since it was so many pages. We definitely directed them where they could find the ordinance.
Well, if we could come up with some kind of an abridged, shortened version of just talk about things like this without getting too far into the weeds, we can encapsulate all of this stuff just to let them know, especially when it comes to painting of brick, painting of colors. We don't have to get down into the weeds too far, I don't think. Yes, Daryl.
How are we going to police this as far as, by complaint is not going to cut it, I don't think. What ability does the staff have to bring someone into compliance? What ability does the city have to bring someone in compliance?
So it'll fall under our general process for compliance. And so there is a section in the ordinance about the complaint and the process there. So it goes through a notification process. We'd send a certified notice to that property owner. If they don't comply, then we do have a citation process to follow from there. And I believe it's up to $500 per day. That's in the general criteria or general ordinances about citations. So that is the process that we would follow.
So
Okay.
Jeannie, do you see the folks in the neighborhood of the historic district out walking their dog and they see the house that's just been repainted and it's not the right colors, it is purple? Do you see the people over in that district contacting the city and complaining?
If it were bad, yeah, I've had a complaint lodged against me. I think Charlie did too, Charlie Powell. And there was some legitimacy to it. And so we took care of it. In fact, we thanked the person who lodged it. But if they're educated and they know that that's part of the process and something they have to do, then I think it's valid. And yeah, I can see that there would be, especially people who have put a lot of effort and money into their homes. And if somebody painted it a bright orange, yeah, I could see that happening, not often, but once in a while, if it were really egregious.
Well, maybe that just needs to be part of our conversation as we meet, figuring out how we can police this moving forward without, going to the see something, say something, getting neighbors beating each other up in the middle of the street type of stuff. So, all right. So I'll figure out when we're going to get together and talk about this face to face with Cameron. And then anyone else that would care to join us is more than welcome. Okay.
I think too, Frank, at least in our neighborhood, that we'd be more likely if we saw somebody painting, that somebody might approach them and say, hey, did you get that letter that said that we have to get approval? Just to make sure. I can see that happening. We're a friendly neighborhood. We know each other and care about each other. And I can see that happening more than calling the city with a complaint.
Okay.
It's kind of all relational, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Okay. Thank you. Great discussion. Anybody else have anything else they'd like to talk about with respect to historic preservation? No? Everyone can look at the screen there and see the name Alexei Pavlov. Alexei will be presented to the Board of Aldermen in the first meeting of November to be seated on the commission in November. So we invited him tonight to come and just see how we do things, and hopefully we didn't scare him away. He does live in a historic district, and I look forward to getting some insight from him as well. So once you're seated, Alexei, we'll officially welcome you. But that's who that name has been all night long, in case anyone was wondering. Okay, if anyone has anything else they'd like to bring up, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
We have a motion on the floor to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. This is so much fun. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your time, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chuck.
We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Nan.
Okay.
Thank you.